Welcome to Fandom Power.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Wes, Andy, and Hank, and we are back again. This time it's part 2 of our So What series. It's our 3-part look at Marvel's What If. Today we're going to cover the middle 3 episodes and pick up kind of where we left off. So this week around, what are we talking about? We had a bit of a hiatus because we were waiting for the middle 3 to drop. In fact, we just had the middle, I guess it'd be
we just had the first
4, 5,
of the
6,
third.
and 7. 7 is out now, so what if Thor was an only child, or as I and most of the internet like to call it, Party Thor? All right, Party Thor. I'm just gonna preface the episode just by telling you guys right now that the middle 3 episodes by far have been the weakest. But that's my opinion. Straight up my opinion. I find it's just been really hard for me to watch them with the same enthusiasm that I had for the first 3, which I thought were really good. And
well, I'd certainly say they're at least the darkest.
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about that. Especially going into the Doctor Strange episode, which Hank is going to take us through.
Yeah, after watching it the first time, I have a friend at work that we text back and forth after hours and stuff, talk about the stuff a lot. And I was like, have you seen it yet? He was like, no. I was like, watch it before you watch it with your 10-year-old.
Oh, right.
Like,
yeah.
Decide honestly if, I don't know your 10-year-old, so he's probably cool.
Screen it for your kids,
I would, because it's super dark. There's
I
probably
agree with you.
A lot of questions that it would raise in a child.
Yeah, conversely, and I'm not trying to steal anybody's thunder, but then we right off the heels of the Doctor Strange episode, which is so dark, we go right into zombies. And, for me, the big saving grace with zombies is it's broken up with those big comedy moments that kind of keep it light and fluffy. But really, you take that element out and holy cow.
Yeah. No, certainly. The first time I watched it, I was like, wow, that's super dark too. But then I was like, no, tonally. It's, like The Walking Dead where the zombies are the environment. It's tonally light.
Yeah. And then that takes us into the Killmonger episode, or as I like to call him, Mr. Murder Machine.
Yeah, that is my least favorite episode.
Is
of
it?
All the ones I've seen so far. Yeah,
I will admit, and I'll talk about it more when we get down to my episode on the second watch through. And this, as we've seen before with a lot of our Star Wars stuff, is when you watch something under the guise of, as I call it, review eyes. It adds so much more depth because I think you're looking to scrutinize it to that level where I will admit the second watch around was a lot better than the initial presentation. So, yeah. Do you want to get into it?
Let's do it.
All right, Hank, we're over to you for what if Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hands?
Okay, well, this one, I'll try to get through this as succinctly as possible, but it's much like the timelines. It's all over the place. So I may rewind time a few times to go over a few things. So let's see though. So the title is actually what if Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hands? But it could be a subtext there. What if Doctor Strange had a better relationship with Christine Palmer?
Oh yeah.
Because there's a moment that happens in the movie that doesn't occur in this. And that moment in the movie is he invites her to this award ceremony and she blows him off.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
their relationship is strained in the MCU.
Right.
And so the main difference here actually is that we have a better Stephen Strange, believe it or not. We have a better Stephen Strange because he's obsessed not with fixing things and narcissism and therefore his hands and his ability to fix things, but he's obsessed with Christine. He's treating her properly. They're clearly madly in love. They're flirting. You know what I mean? This is a different Stephen Strange.
Well, I know that that initial presentation in his film really, if anything that they did really, really well was they captured that essence of how much of a, as you say, a narcissistic jerk he was, like flipping flipping through case files, looking for the most serious cases, because anything less than that was not worth his effort.
Yeah.
Okay, so then there's something cool. So they're in a vehicle they're driving. It's the same vehicle where we know that crash takes his hands, which, so they're in that vehicle. And while he's flipping through files looking for the most, amazing things he can do, he flips through a file in the MCU movie, and it's a file on bisecting a hemisphere. Yeah. You just flip through it. It's like it's innocuous. But she's like, you just performed a bisecting of a hemisphere. If you look that up, that's a procedure that they normally do in child to stop epilepsy. Yeah. They either remove half the brain or they sever the connections between the two halves of the brain.
Interesting.
It's a radical, crazy, super rare, maybe 3 people on the planet could do it. And she's referencing he's getting this award because he just did this.
Because he did it.
But it's symbolic.
Yeah.
It's symbolic because he's about to be split in two.
Oh, yeah. Doesn't that make sense?
So, okay, now we get a car crash. It's horrible. And in the car crash, shot for shot.
Yeah.
It's from the movie. And Christine dies because he wasn't, alone. The motivation for him to seek, there's the funeral.
Yeah.
It's what a tragic episode. The motivation, instead of losing his hands, it's the same thing inside him.
Okay.
His hands before were his gateway, like almost like a crazy or person like interacting with the world. Those are his hands were his way of doing that.
Yeah.
And now his heart is gone.
Yeah.
Just the way his hands were gone. So this is his motivation to seek out the mystic arts and the ancient one and become the sorcerer supreme. And so that plays out almost identically. He finds the ancient one. He trains. He fights Dormammu.
Yeah.
And he saves the universe. But 2 years go by, and instead of like moving on, I'm not a surgeon anymore. I'm now a doctor of the mystic arts.
Yeah.
He's still like, which replaced his ability to work with his hands. He now fixes things with his hands in a whole other way.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But now his heart is still gone. Even though he saved the universe, his heart is still gone. So when we cut to him and Wong.
Right.
Got that? And it's the 2-year anniversary of the crash.
Yeah.
And look at him. And the animation is beautiful.
Yeah. The likenesses are so good in this.
Oh, man. And with that little tweak of Disneyfication, plus the fact I got to point out that every single character, that major character in this, is reprised by the MCU actor. Yep. And in this scene, Wong tells him, I'm going to go put on some tea. I know it's the 2-year anniversary and I know it hurts, but you got to move on, man.
Right.
And I'm going to go put on some tea, and I think you should do it before you do something reckless.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But he doesn't. He doesn't go and join him for tea. Instead, he chooses to do something reckless, and he puts on the Eye of Agamotto. And now this is super important. He rewinds time for himself.
Right.
So there's a huge distinction here, which is I didn't get a screenshot of the apple, but this is the lesson of him tinkering with the apple in the movie.
Yeah.
Reason why they show us again in the show, doubling down on that, because he doesn't have the ability to travel through time. Not like Ant-Man in the quantum realm, not like the device that Stark and Banner built. He can only rewind time.
Right.
This is why he doesn't cause Nexus events when he does this. Otherwise, he'd be branching. And so we're going to get into the mechanics of what's going on in What If and what's going on in the multiverse.
Yeah.
And the mechanics of what Loki did.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And the difference is very different, too. The difference between a multiverse and a timeline.
Right.
There are many universes.
Yes.
And each one of them has multiple timelines.
Yeah.
So when Doctor Strange can't travel through time or multiverses, when he's using the Eye of Agamotto to search through 14,605 possibilities.
Yep.
He's not looking through 14, because we get that impression that he's looking at different dimensions and which one is the best one, and we're going to go that way.
Right.
But what he's doing is looking at 14,605 versions of what could happen inside that
universe. Yeah, that makes sense.
So we have to remember that. These
I
things
can't
are
believe
contained in a,
we're having this deep a conversation. I'm like, that makes sense.
yeah. This episode blows me away with the mechanics of what's going on here. Okay, so we're back on track in terms of the story. So he then becomes obsessed with rewinding time and trying to save Christine.
Yeah.
The first time he does it, it plays out identically, and a car wipes them out, and she dies again. And he tries multiple different things. I won't get into all the different ways he does it, but they include a gunshot. They include her having a heart attack. They include her apartment building being destroyed.
Yeah.
In an explosion. And
bit of a Groundhog Day vibe there.
He finally just breaks.
Yeah.
And he's weeping on his knees at the accident site when the Ancient One appears to him and says, the crazy dark line, having car trouble, Dr. Strange.
Oh, right.
Like, that's like, she's beyond that, if you will. You know what I mean? Like, death is a thing. Like, that's nothing to. But she's warning him that what he's doing is not the right path, and that he needs to calm down and let go, and it's not too late. But he's obsessed. He's still obsessed. He didn't evolve. I guess the crux is the thing I said before, that his hands, his ability to fix things were replaced with something new, but his crux isn't his ability to fix things. His crux is his heart, and so he can't replace that.
Yeah,
and so that's why he can't listen to the Ancient One. And they have a brief skirmish, and she wields yellow magic, he wields the time magic, but she breaks through, hits him in his chest, and he sort of just absorbs it. They seem sort of evenly matched. But she says, "I'll whatever you do, I'll stop you." And he says, "You'll have to find me first." And so he disappears. And where he goes, now this is very interesting. He actually rewinds time for himself here, but way crazier than he's ever done before.
Yep.
What he does here is he rewinds time thousands of years and goes back to the Library of Cagliostro.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So in the Library of Cagliostro, first he meets Oban. Now, this character, Oban, tells him that he's the librarian of Cagliostro.
Yep.
But in the comics, there you go. In the comics, he's Cagliostro. It's just a pseudonym.
Yeah, sure.
And Cagliostro is actually a historical charlatan, but they've adopted him in the Marvel Universe. They made him a sort of Mandarin-looking kind of guy, but he's semi-immortal, and he's also a mystic arts guy. He's definitely a magician of Marvel kind of renown. But his thing is that he's semi-immortal because he drinks the blood of vampires.
Oh.
And I think you're going to see this character played by the actor.
Yep.
In the animated series in the Blade film.
I was just thinking about that. I was going to say Blade, or what about the Morbius film?
Possibly,
maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I definitely. He's too sort of large of an actor to have a couple lines.
No, you're right. I was thinking just for a second here, on a superficial level, I kind of equated Doctor Strange in this movie to Anakin Skywalker and his drive to want to save Padme.
Yes,
it's very similar.
100%. That wasn't lost on me at all. In fact, Lauren was like a little bit. She's like, I'm sort of tired of the trope.
Yeah.
Like, oh, my girlfriend's dead. I need to bring her back. And as a woman, she's like, can we get another angle on that? I'm tired of it. But I felt that it really worked strongly in this. So.
I think it did as well.
So he goes to the Library of Cagliostro, and Cagliostro warns him that what he's doing is very dangerous, but that he's not going to stop. Oban tells him that I'll let you have access. You made it here. I'm not going to oppose you. And so he starts to go through the library, and there's this moment. It's kind of like WandaVision, where he's using the magic. The books are swirling around him. And then he settles upon this one book, and the book is super familiar because it's the book that he reads in the MCU movie.
Right.
It's the book that 3 pages are missing from because I can't remember the guy's name. I got his notes on it.
Caecilius?
Oh, Caecilius.
Caecilius rips those 3 pages out because that's the pages that enable him to do his time crap in the first movie.
That's right, yeah.
But he's traveled, and this is how we know that he just didn't pop over to Cagliostro's yesterday.
Right.
He went back in time because this book is the same book that is now in his possession, but it's in a different place. So with the pages intact, he can actually read how to do this.
Right.
Which
right.
is to rewind time in such a fashion that he might be able to, so to get enough power to do this, he learns that he has to absorb the mystical energy of extra dimensional creatures.
Yeah, I
And
found
so-
this whole sequence, this next sequence, as he's doing that, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah. So he's like Doctor Strange, super arrogant, right? He's still that guy. So the first thing he does is he reads the book and it says, well, here's the biggest mystical being you could suck energy from. So
Yep.
he conjures it first. So that's a great scene. So we have the tentacle beast, and we recognize that tentacle beast from the first What If episode, Sharon Carter. I think it's the same beast. And in fact, I'll go everyone one further, and it's a popular internet. It's not very controversial, but I believe that beast is Shuma Gorath.
Oh, interesting.
Shuma Gorath is a well-known Doctor Strange sort of. I can't call him a villain because he's beyond that.
Yeah.
He's definitely an antagonist. And his thing is that he exists outside reality, in between realities, and can go through realities. And that's his shtick in the comics.
Yeah.
He's not overused, but I totally think that you're going to find him as the villain of the Doctor Strange movie.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I think so. The second one. So,
he was purple in the Marvel vs. Capcom game, though.
Oh, was he?
That's right. He was purple. Let's see. So, I lost myself there.
He summons up Tentacle Beast, and he's
right, and then
all cordial with him.
Camera, yeah, right. He picks him up and does the Thor thing, like him off
Puny
camera.
God.
And off camera, because he just wakes up in a bed. Oban saved him. So there's our indication that Oban is a very powerful sorcerer.
Right.
Because this guy just wiped the floor with Doctor Strange, and this guy saved Doctor Strange from that creature. Whether he just closed the portal, we don't know. So, and then he gives him a little lesson. He says, you're going about this all wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You can't seize life by the throat. You've got to break it down into participles. And he interprets that like, okay, well, I'll start by sucking the energy of small beings. Yeah. And he works his way up. And I think I have a shot of a red dragon there.
There's quite a bit going on there.
There's a lot of different creatures. There's a six-eyed raven.
I love the first one that he pulls out, though, the little gnome.
The little vampire gnome or whatever.
Yeah.
Sucks it up. I believe that this red dragon is the red dragon from Shang-Chi.
So I want to talk.
That's the guardian.
I want to talk about that sequence for a second because, one, it's not lost on me, and I know about you guys, that as soon as he starts doing that, visually speaking, it's the same spell effect that Agatha Harkness uses. The visual of that magic looks exactly 100%. Like what her power is. And speaking of the Shang-Chi connection, one of the creatures, I don't know if you got a shot of it, Hank, one of the creatures that he absorbed was one of the soul eaters from Talo.
Yes.
The soul eater,
is
that right?
Shot of it,
soul
but I
eater?
did note that. Yeah.
Yeah. So who knows? It definitely could be.
This is and the red dragon is the guardian of the reality.
Yeah.
So he's taking out major players extra dimensionally here.
Right.
He's building his way up. Until he gets to a place where he's literally able to take out. One little great, actually, my favorite comedic beat in the whole thing is when he summons an insect creature who's got a sentient cape.
Oh,
cape, and then sends the creature back through the portal saying, I draw the line at bugs. You get he's actually consuming these things, but he draws the line at bugs. Now he's got a sentient cape, but if you notice now that, and Lauren and I don't know if the internet is going to adopt this, I hope so, we've been calling him Darkter Strange. And that's
Darkter,
He's actually absorbing the red dragon in that shot. But his costume, now more comic accurate.
Yep.
This version of Darkter Strange has a more comic accurate costume. Except that the symbol on his chest isn't white; it's dark to represent.
Yeah.
And have you guys seen that there's already a Marvel Legends What If Darkter Strange? It's called Strange Supreme.
I haven't seen that yet. I've seen some of the other What If If figures, but not this one. No.
The Doctor Strange is beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Let's go back into Agatha Harkness's power signature.
Yeah. The visual on Agatha Harkness's powers, which I have to say was not lost on me, that as soon as I saw Strange starting to suck the life force, I'm like, that's Agatha Harkness's power signature.
Yeah, very, very similar. And in fact, one thing I forgot to mention here is that we've switched from his yellow magic, of the ancient one, to the red chaos magic of Wanda Maximoff.
Right.
And we're really going to shift heavily into that as the episode gets closing here too.
Right.
And it's neat that the Watcher, at this point, the Watcher's like, I could step in here and say something, but I doubt he'd listen.
Yeah, that's right. This first time where the Watcher is actually,
batting around the idea.
Yeah. He's not just
breaking his oath.
We've seen him where he's actually he's had some like facial expressions of like, but then doesn't do anything and doesn't say anything. But in this one, it's a little different. Yeah.
So in this scene in particular, the Watcher narrates, as he always does in every episode, but he's talking differently here. He's like, I could intervene. I could warn him. I could tell him that he's about to break the entire universe, but I can't do that.
Right.
Because it would break all the other universes.
Right.
You start to get this sort of Watcher prime directive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can't interfere. And this is the song of the Watcher. I can't interfere. It's the song of the Watcher all through the comics. And what I'm, I guess, not worried about, but a lot of people are like, yeah, the Watcher's going to directly intervene in one of these episodes. He's going to directly intervene. In fact, a lot of people are talking about there's a What If miniseries in the 90s where the Watcher went through the realities and picked superheroes to defend the multiverse.
Really?
So a lot of people think that we might be heading that direction.
In an MCU style.
But I hope not, because in my heart, I'm still in the 70s.
Yeah. And
the one time the Watcher intervenes is actually to save Earth, because Earth is so important in terms of it's like a hub as it's like a nexus point in the Marvel 616. All the beings that are powerful originate there. But he actually intervenes by giving Reed Richards the ultimate nullifier to defend the planet against Galactus.
Yeah.
And I don't want that not to happen, and I don't want that to be watered down by the Watcher going, whenever I feel like it, I break the world. That has some. If we can watch the Watcher for 5 years not intervene, and then he does it to save the world from Galactus, that has more hope for me. That's my hope for the character. But it's important here because Stephen Strange, he either hears him or senses him, because he turns around and is like, "Who's there?" That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, so he's powered up to a level where he can sense
that
them
before in any of these episodes. All these episodes have been about themselves.
Yep.
This episode is more about the mechanics of the multiverse, of the mechanics of What If. Like, they're laying down some of the rules here.
Yeah.
And the Watcher is, you're starting to see that powerful magical beings wielding chaos magic can interact with these extra dimensional beings. And, there's this whole other realm of stuff at play here. It's like, I can't wait till November to rewatch Shang-Chi in terms of some of what I've learned from this episode, actually.
Yeah, me too. I'm looking for a second watch on that one.
So finally, he summons the tentacle beast again and cuts off the limbs and absorbs their energy and finally becomes what the internet is calling Doctor Strange Supreme. And to me, that sounds like he's got cheese and sour cream on him. But I like Doctor Strange a lot, actually. Yeah, but evil Doctor Strange here. And so, I've got in a note here, it's the difference between timelines and branches and Nexus events is very important. He doesn't cause Nexus events because he can't actually change Christine's death, which is an absolute point in time. And if he did, he would never find the motivation to become Sorcerer Supreme. Dormammu wins, universe destroyed. So it's super important that he's mucking with timelines, but not mucking with the fabric, the flow of the multiverse. He's not dipping in and out of different dimensions. I shouldn't say that, because each universe has multiple dimensions, but he's not dipping into other universes. And so there's a distinction there that's going to be probably very specific in the movies that are coming up, especially the fifth wave of stuff. So then we revisit Cagliostro in his deathbed.
Yeah.
And it's revealed that Stephen Strange has been doing this for centuries. So we've seen him do it to about 6 creatures, but he's been doing this nonstop for centuries.
Wouldn't that be a montage?
And so, and here's
there is
a little montage because they actually show Cagliostro's library changing through time, like the seasons change. There's erosion in the cliffs, kind of cool.
Yeah, the vegetation disappears.
Right, and this here is my sort of smoking gun that this is Cagliostro, because he just says to Stephen here, "I've watched you do this for centuries."
Right.
So he's been alive for centuries, and he's old and maybe he's on his deathbed. And he actually prevents Stephen from reversing time on him to sort of, to do that. But there's a key point here. When Stephen Strange, he sort of reverses time for a small portion of the world here, so he doesn't age because he keeps rewinding himself within a rewinding himself.
Oh,
he's rewound his own time back to the 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
But then, like a yo-yo or a pendulum, he's unhinged himself from that timeline, and he's traveling repeatedly back in time within that other timeline. And so he's not aging, although he's now probably 1,000 or 2,000 years old.
Yeah.
And that makes sense in terms of what happens very shortly, because what Cagliostro tells him, and I got actually one little point here. Sorry, Cagliostro is very important in the comic universe in 616. He's the character that gives Wanda the Darkhold, which blows her power levels up.
Yeah,
and he's also the character that is the master of Doctor Doom in the Mystic Arts. Which is another, and every time we stray close to the Fantastic Four, I go, so I don't know if I can wait 3 years or whatever it is they're friggin' playing. I want it now. I keep rewatching the old movies, hoping they're different. But, so he tells him basically in the scene, like, you're not a whole person. You're living half a life. You're half a man.
Right.
And Stephen doesn't understand it. We fade out, but the Watcher understands, and the Watcher actually gives us the punchline here. This is the actual twist to the episode. And the twist is that he's not a whole man. That he's not even the only Doctor Strange in this universe.
That's right.
That there's another Doctor Strange.
Yep.
And you're like, what?
Yeah.
Because what we've done is we've caught up to regular time now. Okay, so Stephen Strange went back 2,000 years in time and just started sucking the souls of mystic beings.
And that's what he's been doing, yeah.
He's been doing that for 2,000 years, and now we're exactly where we left off.
Yep.
Because now Wong and Stephen, can we show that again?
Oh, right.
Stephen's back in the chair.
The T.
Right. It's now 2 years. It's now 2 years after the crash.
Yep.
And this time, Stephen says, Wong, you're right. Let's go get some tea. And he puts the Eye of Agamotto down.
Yeah.
It's very different. Very different. A completely different Stephen Strange.
More
this is the guy that could wield Thor's hammer.
This
is and almost like he's got different personality traits than the other guy. He's less obsessed. He's more willing to understand points of view, and it actually becomes about his respect and love for Wong here a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's an allegory for all of humanity, or maybe all beings in the universe, but he chooses to go for tea. And so the next day he walks outside.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful sunny day, but reality is breaking.
Oh, yes.
And not unlike the way when Thanos did the snap, instead of, pixels, if you will, from a film, this looks like ink from an animated show.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Yeah. So reality is breaking. And what happens here is the Ancient One appears to him. And it's I don't know if you have the image of her wreathed in ethereal light. There it is. And he's like, aren't you dead? And she's like, yeah, no, I'm dead, but I'm appearing to you from a place somewhere on the astral plane between realities. Think of me like an echo.
Yeah.
The world is breaking, and you've sensed that. And she's little lines like, you've always been very intuitive. And he's like, a superhero, right? He wants to know who's doing this. And she tells him that he is.
Yeah.
And she explains what happened in that moment when they had that altercation at the crash site right there. And she splits him in two within it. She creates, now this is super crazy powerful. There you go. That's the image. She splits him in two, creating two individual timelines in the same universe.
Right.
That's crazy powerful. She even says she had to access the dark magic to do it. The dark realm magic. And that's what she's been, you'll recall, she's been doing that to stay ancient.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. But that's like, we sit and pause on that thought. That's crazy, crazy powerful. Crazy powerful. So she says to him, the only person that can stop you is you. And so he's contemplating that. He goes back inside and Wong's there and says, okay, well, this is one of my favorite scenes too, because I don't think I got an image of this, but Wong is disintegrating, but he's completely calm.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I remember that.
There's no doubt in his mind that Steve's going to stop this and that we're all good here. So he gives him the, what's it called? The Guardian Vishanti, which is a really powerful protection spell. And it's so cool because in the fight, as he's getting punched and stuff and magic blasts, runes are flying off him and less of the spell is protecting him. And it must be pretty powerful. So, and just to rewind time a little, Wong says, this will protect you, but how are you going to find this guy? And he says, he gets this feeling like I've already been found. And you get that, it's almost like the Einstein-Rosen bridge from Thor. You get this weird thing where you get to understand that there's like, he's pulled through his own timeline into the other timeline, but they're both in the same universe.
In the same universe, yeah.
So there's a scene, and I didn't get it, but there's a scene in Loki where they're looking at the monitor of the time, like when the bombs all go off. Yeah. And there's not one timeline with multiple branches, but there's two timelines with multiple branches in that one scene. I don't know if you guys can remember that, but there's a shot on the screen where there's two lines with multiple time branches. So this is like crazy powerful to be able to wield this kind of magic. And he gets sucked through that timeline into the other timeline. Yeah. And he's confronted by Doctor Strange, and he's basically saying, I had to get you alone. I couldn't have the Ancient One or Wong here. They don't understand. We loved her, right? Like, and he's, for 2,000 years, he's been spinning these wheels. So this neural pathway is entrenched, and he's so powerful here, right? But we have Noble Steve, who's like, and not in any way been corrupted by this, who's like, no, this is ridiculous. You have to stop, and I have to stop you. And then he tells him his plan, which is, we need to become whole. We need to, because we're both not so powerful. Even though, he's exponentially more powerful than good Steve. He needs to absorb him to bring Christine back to life, to break this absolute point in time. Now, this is a very important sort of notion that the Ancient One tells him of that, and I have to rewind because I skipped over it, but the Ancient One tells him initially, Doctor Strange, in the parking lot, that this is an absolute point in time, that you can't break these, that they are fixed points in every reality that occur and occur and occur. But the fixed points are different in every reality, but they revolve around the linchpin of the character. So this is sort of the central theme of What If, because we're not following some random person in Black Panther clothes. We're following T'Challa. Right? We're not following some random person holding the Thor hammer. We're following Thor Odin's son. Yep. So these people, while they're individual, like they're all like, immovable points in time, but what happens to them isn't. Right. So, and it's also a Doctor Who theme, that there's immovable points in time that revolve around people's death. Like, you would never stop Hitler. It's an episode in Doctor Who about that. So that's and I did glance over a major part there, but that's his obsession with going to Cagliostro to learn how to break an absolute point in time. He needs to become powerful enough, and now he believes that he's there, and all he needs to do is absorb the other Doctor Strange, and he will be powerful enough to do it. And they have a great fight. It's beautiful. I didn't get too many shots of it because it's very quick moving, but it's some lovely stuff there. Quite a bit of a back and forth, but it's almost like Doctor Strange is playing with him. Yeah. Because then he just, there's a cape fight, which is great. Did you see the cape fight?
I did. Yep.
Two capes. Yeah. And then almost tragically, he rends the good Doctor Strange cape to pieces. Yeah. And wipes away the final. Oh, brings him to the mirror dimension where he impersonates Christine Palmer and almost gets him. But then there's like a flicker, like almost like a glitch, and he realizes, no, wait a minute, that's me. Dude, I would do that.
Yeah.
And so then they fall into the mirror dimension, onto the bridge below, and he wipes away the final rune and absorbs him. And you're like, see, in this scene, you think that good Steve won and that's the Watcher.
Craftily
done. It's so craftily done because when I didn't get the screenshot, but the opposite, when they pan around, it's a little white dot in the sky.
Gotcha.
But then he gets sucked through the ground.
Yeah.
He's absorbed. He's lost, and in a crazy twist, our hero loses and becomes one with Doctor Strange. Now the actual Fry Supreme. So, and at this point, he decides, I'm going to use this power and I'm going to bring Christine back. So the first thing he does is he raises the card. I didn't get a screenshot of this, but the card deconstructs and her spirit's looks like a Force ghost. She's blue. And while he's concentrating on that magic, he's lost control of his corporal body. And now he's an amalgam. He's a chimera of all the creatures he's absorbed.
That's right, yeah.
And this shot is straight out of the Disney film Atlantis. If you guys have seen Atlantis, it's very similar to the sort of the finale or the punchline of Atlantis. And he does it. He brings her back to life. He's powerful enough. There's a close up of his hands, and he rewinds time on his wrists. And now, when he first does this, the time stone is green. Yeah. But it breaks and becomes red. Right. And so he's able to do this, but all the energy coalesces. So the time stone is broken, or the time stone is no longer the time stone. It's the red one.
It's the reality stone.
Yeah.
Or the reality stone. Yeah. So there's a crazy fundamental change there. He's wielding a different thing post this if he survives. Yeah. We know what happens. So, but she's alive, but she's confused, and I don't know if she remembers dying or whatever, but she's like, this isn't right. And she's terrified of this monster because
look at the guy.
He's got 30 eyes. He's horrifying. And she's trying to get away, and the world is disintegrating, and it's actually getting smaller and smaller. Both hands in there, I can't. How's that work? There it is.
You gotta find where your camera is.
Smaller. Yeah. And it's not where it looks like it is.
No.
And he breaks off a piece of the land, and when he's sort of concentrating, he has this moment, like maybe Anakin's moment of what have I done?
What have I done?
He regains control of his corporal, and he becomes, even though he's dark, he becomes Stephen Strange again, and she recognizes him. What have you done? She knows this is his fault somehow. Yep. And he's like, and now he's repentant. And now, just like the prayer is the last vestige of all the scourges, right? Now he's repentant, and the Watcher appears now that he's repentant. He's trying to use his power, and you'll notice even in this shot, he creates a geodesic dome, just like Wanda. Yep. To try to isolate his reality from
everything else. Yeah.
So it's a metaphor, right? It's the identical ability. But the Watcher actually speaks to him, breaks the fourth wall. Although he doesn't intervene, he actually speaks directly to him. It's the first time we've ever seen this. And he says, basically, he begs him to stop this, to intervene, to fix this. But the Watcher is snarky. The same way you fixed Christine, you were warned. And he says, I know, but I shouldn't have to pay with my arrogance. I read about you. And he read about him in the library of Cagliostro. When he read about the Watchers. That's the idea that humans have known now. So go down that rabbit hole. That's really cool to me. But he says, you're a god. You can fix this. And the Watcher says, I'm not a god. You misunderstand whatever it was you read, essentially. I'm not a god, and neither are you. And he says, honestly, he says, punish me then. Christine shouldn't have to pay. The world shouldn't pay. And the Watcher says, look, if I could, I would actually. I actually would punish you for this and save the world, but I can't. I can't intervene. And so you get the sort of the punchline of what the Watcher can and can't do. Yeah. I feel like he did interfere here, but there was no recourse. There's no, he's at the extinction event, so he can interfere all he wants.
At what point is interfering?
A little bit like Loki.
you know, the idea that as soon as you talk to him, now that's interference. I mean, you've revealed yourself. The average citizen walking around on the 616 Earth has no idea of what a watcher is.
Yeah.
And I believe that when he appeared in the parking lot, he was also interfering. Because if that had influenced his decision,
possibly,
interfering.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Doctor Strange isn't your average 616 guy walking around.
That is true.
He can definitely sense, and you know,
so
if you sense this feeling and then read about it in a book, you're going to go, oh, maybe 2 and 2.
Yeah. Are we saying degrees of interference?
Maybe.
Okay, fair enough. That's fair.
Maybe. So he's using all his power to try to keep the universe at bay from collapsing, and as the universe closes in around him, and we see Christine decaying further and further, we actually, for the first time, we understand that the Watcher is outside the geodesic dome.
Yeah.
So the Watcher is outside of the universe.
Interesting.
So that's super important. That's super important because he's extra
dimensional.
I think we might have to, in terms of the MCU, might need to redefine certain things, like what's a dimension versus what's a timeline versus what's another universe, and where do these pantheon of characters fit in terms of that? Does every universe get one Watcher? Are there a council of Watchers? Are there, does one Watcher do the whole job of, like, so if I save this universe, I'm not watching that one, and therefore they all destroy it? Like, so there's a lot of questions and a lot of, but we don't get into the mechanism of this in any of the other episodes. All the other episodes are straight narrative and just happening. This one is attempting to explain something deeper to us. It's so good.
But they did give us in Guardians, though, that there are multiple Watchers.
They did, yeah. There was a bunch of them.
Just in the cutscene,
yeah. Talking to Stan Lee, right?
Yeah,
exactly. But he can't stop it. And like a black hole, the universe collapses, and he's trapped in a small, and this is very important, a purple geodesic sphere. Like the innate universal magic that we talked about during WandaVision, the stuff that Agatha wields, not the chaos magic. And she finally disappears, and he's alone in this universe, and we hear him just lamenting as he shrinks into out of existence.
Yeah.
Roll credits. Roll credits.
Yeah.
Like, wow. But I think that this episode has so many connotations for what's about to happen. And I think that maybe all the what ifs do, but especially with explaining the mechanics of this what ifness, of this multiverseness, the differences between timelines, nexus points.
Yeah.
Like all that little fiddly stuff that's tucked in this episode, I think are huge. And after doing this kind of deconstruction on the episode, I'm doubling down on the fact that that's Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange in the multiverse of madness. And although we might get our other Doctor Strange,
the idea of absolute points really, it brings up an interesting question, because with the worst kept secret in Marvel history going into Spider-Man,
right?
How many of those instances from the 3 iterations of Hollywood Spider-Man are going to be absolute, and how many of those points are we going to revisit? I'm curious to see what that's going to look like.
I don't know if I mentioned this last week, but I've been thinking about that all wrong, and I've been telling people lately that maybe we're thinking about it wrong, and just because we want something really, really cool to happen. But the title of the
No Way Home.
No Way Home. So
it's
other universes.
Yeah.
Coming to us.
Tom Holland's displaced.
Like Tom Holland is going to the Tobey Maguire universe.
That's entirely possible, and I think that's more
probably a better interpretation of a very blunt statement in the title.
Yeah.
So you're going to get aspects of a little bit of everything, probably. But I think that when you look at that trailer and you see that, like, it looks like him and Doctor Strange are fighting. Sometimes they're working together, but there's scenes where he's wielding magic.
Yeah.
And he's trying to encase Peter and some stuff there. The cape is very similar. It's not the red cape from the first movie. It's much more similar to the dark cape here that he stole off the insect. And I think in sort of a larger thing, I think you might find that some of these what if characters or their iterations appear in future MCU properties in terms of live action. So we might get a version of Party Thor.
Yeah,
and
maybe.
Especially if things are super popular.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They might double down on things like that. I know I've already seen scenes in the trailers with this version of Doctor Strange in a scene with Party Thor.
Oh.
And I haven't rewatched that Thor episode yet because I got distracted by visions.
Yep.
But I didn't notice if that was in that scene because that episode is actually so full of cameos. My head was on a pivot.
Yeah,
like,
it's a smorgasbord of like who's who
everybody.
in the zoo. Yeah, yeah.
And actually I just got a spoiler, Jeff Goldblum's voice, and I was like, whoa, the hell much did they pay for that? Wow. So hey, I queued up almost an hour. That's me.
That's good, man.
That's me, fellas.
Great primer, though. Like you say, what a great primer episode to maybe revisit before you go off and see Spider-Man: No Way Home, and of course, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
I can't say that enough. The mechanics of what's going on here are big, important things for the future. At least the next 5 10 years of the MCU.
Right.
Man, use these now. Go ahead.
So we're gonna launch into the next one, I guess, and that, I mean, right on the heels of the darkest episode yet, we have what could have been possibly even darker, if not for the infusion of humor, and it's What If Zombies. Andy, that's over to you, sir.
It is to me. So the concept of the Marvel zombies is not a new one. It was introduced during Mark Millar's run on the Ultimate Fantastic Four. And Marvel liked the idea so much, they asked, for spin-offs. And that led to a 5-issue miniseries in 2005, written by Robert Kirkman. Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, that guy, Walking Dead.
Yep, and illustrated by Sean Phillips. And this would bring the concept of Earth 2149 to life.
Yeah.
So, and then they just parodied the snot out of some covers, but... So we get your classic Spidey swinging there, and but all zombified.
Spider zombie.
In this series, though, an unknown superhero from another dimension crash lands and infects the Avengers, X-Men, and Fantastic Four. There will be multiple sequels to this one, with the franchise continuing up to 2015 with a Secret War tie-in.
Really?
Yeah.
It really ran that long?
It did. Like, they went through, and like, it wasn't just a continuous one, it was little mini series, but kept going. But that brings us to episode 5 of What If, and they ask the question, what if zombies?
Yeah. Yeah, not what if zombies did something, just zombies.
What
if
zombies?
zombies?
What if zombies?
Yeah.
Which is a question on a lot of people's minds.
Yeah.
Good enough for me, man.
So this one is directed by Matthew Chauncey, written by Brian Andrews, and it picks up the moment the Hulk is transported across space by Heimdall in the opening scene of Endgame. But when he arrives in the Sanctum Sanctorum, he finds New York is empty and wonders if he's too late. But Ebony Maw and Cull Obsidian, they arrive just as before, and they start, laying down the "Hear me, children of Thanos," and a portal opens up quickly behind him, and a little iron gauntlet comes out and pops him in the back of the head.
Yeah.
And then a couple more portals open up, and there's a little dust up, and Banner, who can't Hulk out as he did in the movie.
Right.
He's like, "Oh, you guys are screwed now."
Right.
And but the dust is going, and he hears like flesh ripping and everything. And he's like, "Oh, maybe that's a bit of overkill." So they're already starting to lean into the comedy bits, but as the dust settles, we see that it's Doctor Strange, Wong, and zombie Iron Man.
Oh, wow.
So our first taste of the zombies this episode. They quickly turn their attention on Bruce, but before they can devour him, the Cloak of Levitation comes in and saves him.
Right.
And soon the zombies there are overtaken by a swarm of insects, and turns out that it's the Wasp leading the charge. And with only Iron Man remaining of the 5 of them, she quickly, offs the head.
Because that is a trope in zombie movies. Yeah, go for the head.
Yeah, there's a lot of those in this episode.
Headshot.
Sever the cerebral cortex.
Yep. Double tap.
You should have gone for the head.
But just as Hope tells Bruce to go with the giant ants, and he's like, giant ants, really? That's safe? Spider-Man swings in and carries him off. And the Watcher gives us the lowdown of how this all took place. And that 2 weeks prior, when I guess technically in Ant-Man and the Wasp
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
When they go in to rescue Janet, instead of finding her normal, turns out she's contracted a quantum virus.
Oh, right.
And when they
Plot armor.
yeah, when they exit the realm, it takes only 24 hours for the virus to spread across the Pacific Northwest.
So, but just for a second though, like these are what ifs. So, I mean, if the fact that they've even suggested that that was even a possibility, you can't rule it out for future live action story beats. Like,
No.
something like that could happen. Maybe not on the scale that we see in this episode, but
Well, when you're in the quantum realm, like there's like what could be construed as virus-looking creatures floating around in there.
Yeah.
So
There are strong rumors that they've already greenlit a live action.
So I heard something about this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether it's going to be a series or a film or.
But the Watcher goes on to tell us that it was the Avengers who sealed the fate of the Earth, because once they became infected, nobody else stood a chance.
Yeah.
Unless they know the rules.
Unless
And-
they know the zombie rules. Yeah.
Which is a clear nod to Zombieland.
Yeah.
Um,
Cardio.
Yeah, cardio. Double tap.
Yes.
Uh,
And who better to narrate that?
oh,
Come on.
I know. But we get a little cutscene with Spider-Man showing Bruce Banner the what's the word here? Orientation video. There we go.
Orientation. There
The
we go.
orientation
Nice.
video. Yeah. So he shows him that, and it shows you a few of the rules. And I love this part here because it's a clear nod to another, maybe not exactly zombie, but definitely Marvel-tied,
Yeah.
the Mutant Enemy production group, which is Joss Whedon's.
Nice.
Oh, really?
Nice,
Yeah.
nice.
So you'll remember this little guy at the end of every episode of Buffy. But,
Okay.
Grr, arg.
Cool, very cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I never would have pulled that out. Like, I just wasn't
That's
a Buffy
beautiful.
fan, so that was lost
I
on
love
me.
Buffy.
Sure.
After Banner sees the orientation video, we find out that Happy Hogan, Bucky Barnes, Kurt from XCon, Sharon Carter, and Okoye are some of the last heroes left in New York. And they're all holed up in a series of streetcars that have been webbed together kind of like a space station.
Yeah.
So we get to see that floating there. Okoye goes on to inform them that another survivor camp has made a possible breakthrough for the cure, but their beacon was corrupted, so they don't know where to find them.
Yeah.
So they're pulling up the broken signal, and because Banner is now with them, he figures it out pretty quick. And once they get that figured out, Sharon Carter recognizes it as Camp Lehigh from New Jersey,
Yeah.
which is S.H.I.E.L.D.'s first base of operations, as well as where Captain America, jumped on the grenade to prove he was worth it.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
So they decide they're going to make their way to Grand Central Station so they can take off to New Jersey. And they're accosted by what we think is a giant zombie, but it turns out they're just using the shrunken Pym cars
Yeah.
to
Which
get
I
there.
thought that was very nice little throwback nod.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we get to see a little zombie explosion already. They go to goo pretty quick.
These zombies?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, isn't that, I guess it lends itself to animation, I suppose.
True. Once at the station, though, Okoye suggests that they split up and get more done quicker. And Parker's like, don't you watch horror movies in Wakanda? And she burns him here. She replies back, we don't need them. We have American reality shows.
TV.
Nice.
Boom goes the dynamite.
And Kurt's like right on top. He's like, oh, burn.
That was solid burn on all of us.
But Spidey, Banner, Hope, and Kurt try and jumpstart the train, while Okoye, Bucky, Happy, and Sharon keep watch for zombies. And with a traditional scare moment, Happy's walking down a corridor and a bunch of birds come flying out.
Yeah.
And it's funny because he's letting off repulsor blasts, but he's going blam, blam, blam.
Oh, as he's doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, and Sharon calls him on it. And is
Are
like,
you
did
saying
you just say
blam?"
blam?
Oh,
And
that's
he's
so
like,
good.
yeah.
Were you saying blam?
Was I?
Then we get our second thing, and Happy takes an arrow harpoon through the shoulder, and he's dragged off into the darkness in typical horror movie fashion.
Yeah,
All the
yeah.
while, he's still yelling blam, blam, blam.
At least you know he went down fighting.
Yeah, it's true. But Sharon relays that Happy is down, and we find out that it is Hawkeye who has, of course, launched
With
the
the
arrow.
big arrow, yeah.
Trick arrows and whatnot. He then puts one in Sharon's shoulder and pins her to the wall. And just as this is happening, Zombie Falcon decides to fly and crash through the window to take on Okoye and Bucky. And then we get this, it's pretty quick. It's a back and forth cut where all three groups are kind of dealing with something. So Sharon's trying to dispatch Happy and Hawkeye before they get him. And Spidey is trying to jumpstart the train using some webbing and a really big pull.
Yeah. Big slingshot start.
Yep. While Okoye and Bucky are trying to take down Falcon, and she takes down Falcon pretty mercilessly here with the Wakandan spear. She ends up splitting him right in half.
That was pretty grim.
It's weird because we get a kind of comedy beat to it, because she's like, I know he was your friend. I'm sorry. And Bucky responds with, I should be sad, but I'm not.
Oh, yeah, that whole...
So it's kind of their back and forth from the Captain America Falcon
Yeah, it feels a little more like
but,
that, the buddy cop sort of vibe thing.
Yeah, but...
Lethal weapon.
Yeah. But back in the tunnel, we find that Spider-Man, he's like pulled the webs out as far as he could go, and he's got... what does he say? Something like 4,000 pounds of thrust waiting
like
to go
draw
here.
weight or something. Yeah.
So they need to get on the train quick.
The complete inverse of using webs to stop a train.
Yeah.
Right.
So he's ready to go, but the zombies are starting to close in, and they come up from behind him, ready to bite him in the head. But again, the cloak comes in and saves him.
Yeah.
So he's still got this on, and the cloak is buying him time by, fending off zombies. And there's a great scene here where Hope, they smash through the window of the train, and she just minimizes and just goes on a killing spree. Zombie to zombie, just blasting them out. And they're basically exploding as she goes by. And
now, is that with her stinger power?
I assume so.
Yeah. I guess it's not really a power, it's a suit ability, I suppose, now.
Yeah. But this gives us another humor moment, and again, it's from Kurt. And he's awestruck. He's like, oh, such a remarkable woman.
Yeah.
But everybody gets on the train. They let loose the brake, and the train goes barreling down the track. And the cloak gets Spidey aboard just before he gets run over. But the zombies in the tunnel aren't so lucky.
Not so lucky.
And they just, similar to that RoboCop scene where dude goes splat all over the hood.
Yes.
But the cloak sticks with Spidey, and we get our first action figure moment.
Yeah, really, eh?
So he walks in with the cloak on, and Hope tells him it looks good on him.
Oh,
but,
zombie hunter Spidey.
Yeah. It's short-lived.
Yeah, she does say that. It looks pretty good on you.
Yeah. And he's like, I don't know, it feels a bit weird. And he's like, oh, you'll grow into it.
Yeah.
It harkens back to one of the original what ifs from the 80s. What if Spider-Man was Doctor Strange, actually, that episode.
So Okoye tells Spider-Man that, they should have stayed together. And in another classic horror scenario, Sharon hears creaking on the top of the train. And as something bursts through the ceiling, we cut to Bucky. He hears her screaming and runs to see what happened.
Yeah.
Only to find that zombie Captain America has come through, and he's standing over Sharon's body.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So,
Nice.
Bucky delivers a line that kind of flips the other one on its head where, he's like, I can do this all day. But Bucky's like, I think you've had enough, Cap.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
And this also gives us our second action figure beat here, because the zombie Cap was chosen to be part of that line as well.
Mm.
But this isn't the first time they've done a zombie Captain America, because back in 2007, Diamond selected one for the Marvel Zombies miniseries.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So we got Zombie Colonel America.
Oh.
There was a bunch of these figures made based on that miniseries. And they came with base pieces, that when you interlocked them created a big diorama.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Back on the train, Bucky and Cap square off. And Captain America ends up getting cut in half with his own shield. And Bucky does he finally gets to pick up the shield.
Yeah. Gets his moment there, yeah.
Yeah. And meanwhile, in the background, Hope gets to take out Sharon because she shrinks and flies inside and expands, blowing her up.
Yeah.
Which is funny because a lot of people on the internet thought something similar should be how Ant-Man defeated Thanos.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But on a side note, there is an animated short out there now done by a fan where it does depict this action, but it takes a twist on that idea as well, because Thanos uses the gauntlet to shrink himself before jumping up Ant-Man's rear, and then Thanos expands and, blows up Ant-Man.
That snap is one of those absolute points in time, I believe.
It must be.
I think so, too.
Yeah.
But on a sad note, we find out that in battling her, Hope has now been exposed to the virus. And she's got, time's running out. But Spider-Man holds on to Hope. And I don't mean literally Hope Van Dyne, just Hope as a
Hope
concept.
as a concept,
And it's also a classic zombie trope, because everybody who gets scratched or bit thinks, oh no, I'm special. This won't affect me. Or maybe I'm the one person that...
Just hold on. Hold on a little
every
longer.
person just has that crazy amount of denial before succumbing and eating the rest of the tribe.
Yeah, but she holds no ifs, ands, or buts about it. She knows her time's limited. So more bad news comes out. The train has run out of fuel, and they still have a little ways to go. And we get another horror movie trope, something like right out of Land of the Dead, where you get the entire field of zombies, and it's going to be impossible to get across, but Hope decides, since her time is running out, she's ready to make the sacrifice play, as she feels that it's her fault for not considering what might have come back with her mother, and with time running short, she thinks she can at least do this. So
as Battle of Wakanda vibes too from it.
A little bit, yeah. But as the sun sets, Hope goes giant, and
I have to admit, I did not see that coming.
Yeah, because normally it's him that does it.
That's right, yeah.
She goes giant and kicks him across, but as she's crossing, though, the zombies are slowly making their way up her legs.
Yeah.
More than she can handle, and she manages to set them down inside the compound, and stands up, takes a step back, and she tells Peter, smile for me.
Right.
Because I can't.
Yeah.
And they finally made it up to her faceplate, and they end up smashing through her helmet, and she finally succumbs to them.
On the plus side, though, when she goes down, she flattens quite a few.
She does. She leaves a mark.
Splat.
So, Hope falls, and the heroes notice that none of the zombies are trying to climb over the fence. And as they look further, they find out there's gaps in the perimeter, so they don't even have to.
Yeah, no, they can just walk right in.
So something is holding them at bay. And Kurt remarks that Baba Yaga is near.
Yeah.
Which Banner questions who, and he tells him she is a witch that lurks in the shadows of sacred burial grounds.
I keep looking for John Wick to jump out
from somewhere. It's a legacy
somewhere.
line from the second Ant-Man movie.
Yeah, Baba Yaga.
It's Baba Yaga.
But that description of Baba Yaga is a little bit off, because the tale of Baba Yaga originates from Slavic folklore, and it varies greatly across the tales, with her sometimes being a child-eating monster or the worst witch in all of Russia, to others where she's actually helping the protagonist of the story.
Well, I mean, one of those is rather on the nose.
It is.
Right.
And though commonly she is thought to live in a hut that stands on chicken legs, she's been referenced in a lot of stuff.
Yes.
And even made an appearance on Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated.
Oh.
There's a magical item in the second edition D&D. I don't know if it made it into subsequent editions, but it's a magical item, Baba Yaga's hut. It's actually.
Oh.
Neat. But the witch part of the tale is some nice foreshadowing.
Yeah.
And we get 2 jump scares in a row. First when Spidey startles Kurt, and then when Vision startles them all.
Oh my god, yeah.
So, again, more jump scares, and we get some exposition to find out that the Mind Stone is the thing that's keeping all the zombies at bay. And it's been Vision who's been trying to work on a cure, and he's experimented with direct exposure to the Mind Stone to reverse the virus. And when they ask him, well, did it work? We get Scott Lang in a jar.
And all I can
Futurama
think of, Futurama.
Yes.
So good.
But Ed, just like Futurama, he's cracking jokes in that jar too.
I was waiting for Nixon to turn up.
Yes. But they're like, it worked. Great. let's do this. Let's broadcast everything. And Vision tells them we don't have the stuff we need here. But Okoye is like, no, we got it in Wakanda. So all we got to do is get there.
Get to Wakanda, yeah.
So Bucky goes off to search for transport, but Vision, he's like very ominously, you won't find what you're looking for.
Right.
And then we get more horror movie
Oddly
vibes.
enough, does nothing to stop him, though.
No. So
Not even the horror movie trope, don't go in there.
yeah, pretty much, eh? But we get more horror film vibes as all the rooms he searched look like something out of Resident Evil or Silent Hill.
Yeah.
And he finds one zombie caged up and lets off a couple rounds, but from behind a curtain, we find a weakened T'Challa call out, and he's like, don't anger her.
Yeah.
And then we find out that T'Challa's leg has been removed, and he tells Bucky, we have to run now. But turns out that bullet did put a crack in the zombie casing.
Yeah.
And we're still not 100% sure who this is, but we're getting an idea.
Mm-hmm.
The color palette may have something to do with that.
It might, yes.
We knew.
We find Spidey and Bruce, they make a discovery that they aren't the first survivors to make it here. And when they find that, it was the Vision who's been taking people, and he's trying to satisfy Wanda's hunger.
Yeah, I'm just going to feed them to you one leg at a time.
Yep.
That's
He
straight out of
reveals,
Walking Dead as well.
Yeah, really.
he reveals that her powers are too great and she resisted the Mind Stone, but he couldn't bring himself to kill her. And all the commotion has woken her, and Vision remarks that she hasn't eaten in days. And again, Scott is still cracking up dad jokes as the heroes try to subdue her. And we get Spidey webbing her up, but it's to no good.
Yeah, Zombie Wanda is pretty horrific, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Very Dark Phoenix vibes.
Yeah, I see it. I totally see it, yeah.
But in the commotion, just as Scott's head is knocked off the chair, this episode's MVP, the Cloak of Levitation, makes another save.
Yeah.
And this one, it's not official, but it's already been kit bashed on the action figure customizing circuit.
Oh, really?
So we get
That's dope.
we get Ant-Man with the cloak.
Oh, that's hilarious.
dope.
These ones here were done by John Groothuis and
Yeah.
Alex Lexi, respectively. So a pretty easy kit bash to put
Yeah,
together,
yeah.
but it's a good looking figure.
That's awesome.
Banner tells the Vision that they need to get out, so he comes to his senses and he helps him escape, but not before Okoye is taken by Wanda. And Vision directs them to a Quinjet in the hangar, but he elects to stay behind and atone for his sins.
Right.
At which point he rips the Mind Stone out of his own head.
Yeah, that was really kind of like grim. I'm like, that's right out of Infinity War.
Yeah.
And I'm like, God, I don't know how he did it. I guess being a machine, and it just goes. It was kind of mind bending for me, because his love for Wanda, which is very much a human trait, an emotional trait, just is counterintuitive to the idea of ripping a piece of your body off.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
But I guess they need the Mind Stone to make it
No,
work.
you're right.
So,
You're right.
And maybe that removes his love for her so that he can,
Like
so
maybe.
that what can be done can be done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we get a similar effect to the one we saw in Infinity War when Wanda destroyed the zone, as this big, energy cloud goes off. And Bucky, again, decides he's going to slow Wanda down, so he stays behind and starts opening fire. But he has little success, and as he is dispatched, Wanda then goes after Banner, and the Hulk comes out really briefly to stop the bite.
It was a blink and you miss it moment where he just gets enough green where the skin can't be penetrated. Yeah.
But
I really dug that, actually.
He tells T'Challa and Peter, I think I can do this.
Yeah.
And he takes, the sacrifice dive, and he runs into the middle of the crowd, and, come on, Hulk, we got to be the one to save him. We can be the hero. And he does. He hulks up and ends up just firing zombies everywhere. And then we get Hulk versus Wanda in a smackdown. And
that's not a pairing or a matchup that I ever envisioned before seeing this.
No.
They're both Omega level characters in different ways.
Yeah.
But he manages to hold his own against her, so. And in him doing this, T'Challa, Spidey, and Scott in a Jar manage to make their escape from the hangar with the Mind Stone. And Scott declares, "We did it!" But Spidey's quick, like, "Don't jinx it. Don't you watch horror movies?" Which he did jinx it. And now the zombified giant Hope Van Dyne rises up and grabs the ship. She doesn't manage to hold on too long and ends up losing her grasp. And as they're flying off, both Scott and Parker, they kind of lament her loss. And, you know, she was a great lady and all that.
Yeah.
But the morning approaches, and they're almost to Wakanda. And Scott is still cracking jokes, and Peter's gone all, introspective, and he questions why he's still here when the Avengers are all gone. And this moment here, again, how could they know? But it's like a heart-wrenching moment. T'Challa tells him, death is not the end. They are still with us as long as we do not forget them.
Yeah.
And,
indicative of his jaunt across the ancestral plane.
Yeah. So they're flying into Wakanda, we think we're ending on a note of hope because they've got the Mind Stone. They're almost there, but then we find a zombified Thanos with 5 of the 6 stones, and we cut to black.
Yeah.
So things do not bode well for this universe
at all.
No.
Madness.
That's the first big surprise ending that they do like that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. So the zombie episode. So here I want to talk about the level of awareness with these characters, and I mean self-awareness. Like, I mean, I'm not a big zombie. I'm not a horror movie fan by any means, but like, when I think of zombie tropes, I don't think, except for that whole the I Am Legend. And that new one that Batista just did, where there is a level of like awareness with some of the zombies. Typically associate them as like, the shambling.
Right.
This harkens back to the miniseries because in that version, the zombies actually retain their intellect and their instincts.
Oh.
So
they're just flesh hungry.
Yeah. They just
interesting.
So much more.
Yeah.
So much more terrifying if they're like thinking, feeling.
Well, this
zombies,
is the thing, right? And that was my big
everybody
question.
wants the zombie apocalypse where you have the shambling hordes.
Yeah.
We could spend our days.
We can spend all day throwing records at them.
I can't wait to cut loose, to tell you the truth. But as soon as you get when they can run, or one of the most terrifying versions of a zombie movie I've ever seen, or when animals were being like succumbing to the virus. You had zombie crows. And if you think about that for a second. A billion teenagers that can fly and peck your eyes out.
No, yeah.
With zombie powers. Yeah. That's just that type of zombie stuff is terrifying. The Walking Dead even went so far in the comics as to make a sentient zombie leader who can speak and think, and because they're trying to amplify the terror. Like, I mean, there's only so much.
We see that, as I was saying.
But the thought of a zombie Iron Man that can wield the armor is horrifying.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah. We've seen it a couple times. Like, again, like I Am Legend had that love connection between the male and the female, and then the Netflix movie that just came out with Batista kind of posited that zombies may actually be the next step of human evolution. Like, so really interesting stuff. What's that one with
Drew Barrymore on Netflix too? Where she's a zombie and
the Santa Clarita Diet.
Right, and Timothy Oliphant they become serial killers of horrible people and just feed her that. It's a neat twist. It's not very much.
All right, so where are we at now? We are back all through the magic of editing, and everybody's had their little water breaks. Can we call that water break?
Yeah, there was water in the
Sure. All right. That brings us to the third of 3, or shall we say 6 of 9?
Episode 6.
Episode 6 of 9. And that is back to me. So what are we going to do? We are going to talk about what if Killmonger rescued Tony Stark. Mr. Murder Machine himself here. So the basic premise of this one is Tony Stark, while visiting Afghanistan, goes through the same ordeal that he does. In the Humvee, hey, no gang signs. No, seriously, throw it up there. Take some pictures. We get shot at. Hey, give me a gun. Outside he goes. Yeah, stay in the Humvee. Gets outside, wanders around, gets blown kind of disoriented, and then the bomb drops, and he's staring at the bomb thinking that the end is nigh, except it's not, because we get an interjection from Eric Killmonger, who quickly snatches up the bomb and tosses it off, and it blows up in the ether. So, because the bomb never goes off and Tony is never injured, he's never taken prisoner by the Ten Rings, he never becomes Iron Man. And and so without any Iron Man, there's a lot going on here. And again, this kind of comes through that whole watching it again through the review eyes. There's a few things that goes on here. Like, one, Tony just continues on the path that he was already on. So, weapons developer, not when he goes back to the States and they're having the press conference about what happened. He's like, our weapons were killing our soldiers. And then it's like, so what are we going to do now? We're going to do it bigger, badder, and better than anybody else. Oh, wow. Right. So we just doubled down on the thing that, the very thing that propelled him to be Iron Man was now flipped on its ear, and it's just making him a bigger, badder arms dealer. But there's a little more subtlety here. And as I thought about it as we go through the episode, because even though the episode kind of takes place in that 2008 time frame, the Iron Man 1 time frame, there's a few elements from other films and other properties that kind of permeate into the episode. And the one thing that I kind of want to bring to your attention is that Tony Stark never gets an opportunity to deal with his alcoholism in this episode. And I think it's significant because it makes him a more reckless character in terms of decision making. And we're going to get to that, why I think that is. But ultimately, it's up to you guys to come to that conclusion for yourselves. But that's what I think. So we get back to the States, and right off the hop, Tony decides that he's going to appoint Eric Killmonger as his head of security over Happy Hogan, who's a little bit put out because it's supposed to be my promotion. And of course, the first thing he does is immediately exposes Obadiah Stane as the brains and the financial backing to the Ten Rings in what they were doing in Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. So, right off the hop, Eric has established himself as a player, and they arrest Obadiah Stane sort of on the spot. And
one of my favorite moments from every episode actually is Happy gets his moment here, and he gets to punch.
He does,
Obadiah Stane out.
Yeah,
and I was like, that's Happy's hero moment. That's my favorite timeline.
Cleans his clock right there.
Cleans his clock. Yeah, he deserves that.
I don't know if they say they offered everybody a chance to come back. We did not get Jeff Bridges come back for this, which is kind of unfortunate, because I like him pretty much in everything he does.
Yeah, he's awesome.
So quickly, in a matter of just a few seconds, we go from head of security right to COO of Stark Industries. And that kind of caught me off guard. Like, whoa.
A big promotion.
Yeah. And Pepper even says, you're giving him Obadiah's job? And Tony's like, well, yeah. So Pepper being Pepper. And Pepper is kind of she's the silver lining to the episode, I think I can call her that. She doesn't trust him. So she goes to Rhodey, good old Rhodey, who's as reliable as ever. Don Cheadle, welcome back. And he goes through his resume with her, and he's like, what's your concerns? And she's like, because he's, other than the killing part, which he was trained to do, this kid's got a pretty good, squeaky clean resume. And, she says, well, that's kind of her problem with it, is that it's maybe a little too clean. Mm. Meanwhile, this is another thing, talking about this whole, elements of other MCU properties kind of making their way in here. We learn that Killmonger in graduate school was actually working on a drone. And so this, in a roundabout way, the Killmonger character supplants the Justin Hammer character, with the idea. The only difference is now they're not competitors now, they're partners. And so he says he
sort of double down on the random sort of character comment about Killmonger from Black Panther. And there's a section of the movie where they're just talking about his, what a good soldier he was and what he had done, and that he was an MIT graduate. And they sort of just pull that thread here.
Yeah, exactly. Like They never really touched on that in the Black Panther, that he was this highly educated guy, because all we saw was soldier guy.
Right. Well, they do
Revenge-driven.
actually reference his MIT graduation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he says that he was developing this combat drone called the Liberator. You know, the Liberator. Which is kind of funny when you think about the later on in the episode when he talks about why wear the uniform of your oppressor.
Right.
But he says he could not figure out the interface. And so Tony, naturally, as a thank you for saving his life, says, let's help build your science project. And comes up with the idea that they're going to use Jarvis as the operating system. And
it's like a mobile Gundam.
Yeah, exactly. And they make that line about, you know, we will have the world's most expensive Gundam model.
Wicked.
He's like, what? I like anime.
Yeah, exactly. So after a failed test of the Liberator, they've decided that it's the power source that's the problem. And they need a new one, a better one. And in a throwaway line, Tony dismisses the idea of miniaturizing an arc reactor, which he had been working on up until this point. No, that won't do. But it's Killmonger who says, vibranium. And he produces a vibranium ring that he's wearing around his neck. Of course, it's the ring given to him by his father. And he says that if it's infused with enough juice, vibranium could act as a self-sustaining power source. Presumably that is sort of the crux of Wakandan technology and why it's a super science, right?
Yeah.
All right, which leads Tony to make one of the worst decisions he's ever made on screen, and that is to go and buy a large quantity of vibranium from the black market from Ulysses Klaue. Nice to see Andy Serkis come back as Ulysses Klaue. Of course, Stark Industries can't be seen making this deal, so they do it under the guise of the United States government, and they send in Rhodey to make the deal. So during the whole exchange, Rhodey's there trying to make the deal with Klaue. They have he produces the Dora Milaje spear, tells him, how much it cost, 10 million. And Rhodey's like, yeah, Tony spends, 10 million in Vegas. And he's like, okay, good. We'll get right to the big stuff.
Right.
But that whole thing is interrupted when T'Challa shows up, just like he did, that we know in the regular continuity that they were tracking Klaue for stealing the vibranium in the first place, and they wanted it back.
So are we now 4 years later? Are we in the 2012s now?
Well, this is
just,
it.
Just before the Avengers, right?
I don't know how long they've spent developing. It's kind of, it's very ambiguous how long they've taken to develop the Liberator drone and how long they've been working at this and how long they've taken to set up this deal. The pacing of the episode suggests that it's just like this boop, 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 boop. Like there's no.
Yeah.
Almost
you would
like
assume that this is after Civil War and that T'Chaka has been killed by Zemo.
I would place this more like Age of Ultron, where they're going after and finally making that deal with Klaue in the desert.
That's kind of what I thought. It's a little bit earlier than that. Yeah.
Okay.
So when the Black Panther shows up, naturally that triggers Klaue's goons, and there's a battle. And in the battle, we get the reveal that, surprise everybody, Eric Killmonger is the villain that you thought he was. And I'm going to go so far as to say that he's essentially the exact same character we saw in the Black Panther. His motivations are pretty much the same. We'll get to that, how we get there. And it's the getting there that's really different in this episode.
Different road to the same destination.
And I'm going to say that's probably why on my initial watch through, I was like, what? You're just telling me the same story with different beats? Like, I don't know if I really like that. Turns out I did like it, but it took me a second time around to really kind of find the sweet spot in this one. So, during the battle, Killmonger actually outrightly kills T'Challa using this like sonic weapon, which kind of harkens back to the scene underneath, I don't even know what the name of the city is, in Wakanda, the railroad tracks and the vibranium, whatever they were, the resonance thing for the
shaft.
The thing for the train tracks, how it kind of messed with their suits and their powers. So it's clearly based on that technology, and it outrightly it kills Chadwick's character. So
he's not having a good good show.
Well, here's the thing. So like, we talked about it in our first episode about how tragic the loss of Chadwick Boseman was. And every time I see him in one of these episodes now, and you see him in these situations where like he just had his leg torn off, he's dying in this episode. And it's just like, this is like, it was so emotional watching it, knowing that, not knowing that he was dying at the time that they made this. And it's like, if they had known, do you think they would have written these episodes differently?
Or is it even possible that they're using specific, and not in any negative way, but specific lines of dialogue and sort of reconstructed them to actually pull our heartstrings like that on purpose?
You know what? It very much could be. It could be.
And it's not negative to me. I like feeling those feelings, like what a great actor and what a tragic loss. But I don't mind feeling those feelings. Like I like to, I like to watch his body of work. I'm going to go back and watch some of his other films that I'd never bothered with before, for sure.
So what was the catalyst in the main narrative that got the Wakandans all riled up? Was it was the killing of King T'Chaka?
I believe so.
Who they made it look like that
Bucky had done it.
That's right.
So we get a similar beat here with the death of T'Challa, where Killmonger plants the vibration weapon on Rhodey, but not before, they have a moment where it's like, what are you doing? And this is where, Rhodey's like, you've got to be in the system to change the system. And then you get that line of why wear the uniform of your oppressor. Right. And, as again, Mr. Murder Machine kills another one, taking out Rhodey, and frames the whole scene on him. And we get that classic, Claw and Killmonger were in on it together the whole time, just like they were in the Black Panther.
Right.
So, but then Tony, being the genius that he is, we go back to the United States and, tosses the spear at him, and, they have some dialogue about, did you think I wasn't going to find out? And then there's this whole element of Jarvis sees all. And Tony is really, really mad as he clink, 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 sucks back on whatever it is that he's drinking. And, this is where that recklessness comes through. And he's like, I did it. He's like, you're right. Vibranium was the way to go. I melted down that ring. And so Tony essentially is going to use the Liberator drone to stop Killmonger or to take revenge almost, I think, for the death of Rhodey and for, pinning him. That's the other line, is that it's all over the news that it's Tony Stark that had done this, had set up this deal with the black market. But, Eric being Eric, is able to use the Dora Milaje spear, and he's actually able to not only stop the drone, but, Captain Murder does it again. And pins Tony to the wall like a piñata, and ends up killing Tony Stark. So yeah. Of course, now we get this whole thing with General Ross, and I like the fact that General Ross is involved in this because he's he's an underutilized character. Loved him in
Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, not so in the Incredible Hulk. He was much more like the hot-headed, pardon my language, but the hot-headed asshole that you expect him to be. And so you get this like continuation of that in this episode, where Ross interprets the whole scene with Killmonger and Claw as a Wakandan hit job, probably in retaliation for the death of T'Challa. So, using the United States Patriot Act, Ross seizes control of Stark Industries and orders Pepper to put the Liberator drones into production, sending the United States into a full-on war with Wakanda. So we get this whole load up the drones. We're gonna fly over to Africa. But Eric decides he's going to make a little detour, and he stops to pick up Claw, who's going to escort him right up to the Wakandan border shield. Pretty much like he does in the movie. It tells him where Wakanda is. And because it's the exact place that Eric wants to be, Claw has now outlived his usefulness and is promptly executed. I don't know what the body count is yet. Have anybody keeping track here?
No, but it's high.
Rhodey, Claw, Tony,
Black Panther.
Where like 4 main characters are dead now from this guy.
Mm-hmm.
So, and because, so here we go. Then we get this like right out of the Black Panther where the Dora Milaje are standing there waiting as he walks through, walks into Wakanda, and I bring a gift with Claw over his shoulder. He delivers him to the Dora Milaje, and he reveals that he is in fact a Wakandan, with the, I am,
lip glyphs.
Yeah, I am Njidaka, son of Njobu. And so they don't know what to do with him. But anyway, they take him. Obviously, they take him to the king and the queen. And we get this moment where, and of course, who's right there beacon off right from the start? Shuri. She's like, I don't trust this guy. He's still an American soldier. And it's King T'Chaka, completely unaware that, you were staring down the murderer of your son, embraces him as family. And he accepts him and welcomes him as a Wakandan. And so then the country now prepares to go to war because they know that, Killmonger says they're coming. And we learn, which I think is really cool. This is actually one of the coolest things, that Queen Ramonda and not Okoye is the head of the Dora Milaje in this one. Right, and that's really, really awesome because
suggesting that maybe she's just retired by the time we get to her character. Maybe, right? But no, she's the queen and the general at the same time. Yeah, that's awesome. It's very awesome.
And it's Angela Bassett, and oh my God, she's just amazing. So this is a well-deserved infusion of action for her character that, we got to see her, how good of a mother she was in the Black Panther, but we never got to see this side of her, which I think is one of the most compelling aspects of this whole episode.
Yeah, we only got hints of it in Black Panther where, she goes to the mountain tribe looking for help. Yeah. But, she's still portrayed as not able.
She's not portrayed as a warrior.
No,
not at all. And she's not looked at as a warrior.
No.
But we get a whole new appreciation for that here coming up shortly. So with the Liberator drones marching on the Wakandan shield, Killmonger has a plan that is to allow the drones to come past the shield. And that way, once all the drones are inside, they can reactivate the shield. And that will effectively cut the hive. Because they say that these drones, they run under like a hive intelligence, which is ultimately controlled by Jarvis. So if they can cut the drones off from Jarvis, then we will have won the day. And so, as the plan unfurls, they actually, they do. They all kind of walk through the shield. And then, of course, we get the big reveal moment that, because the Americans are like, are you sure this is the right place? And they're like, the drones are where they're supposed to be. And then they see the sort of the piercing of the veil, as it were. And as soon as they're in and the shield goes back up, Ross is cut off and they're like, what the hell's going on? And, so the plan is successful, but this is all part of the ruse that's been orchestrated by Killmonger to get closer to the Wakandan throne. So, back in the U.S. Control Center, General Ross loses contact with the drones and is left staring at a blank monitor. Meanwhile, Eric, he produces essentially what I call the key fob. Like he's got to unlock the door, unlock the car. Yep, pops the key fob out and wakes the drones up again. And it's full on battle at this point. And I gotta point out here, because I didn't quite catch it on the first time around. Maybe it's because there was such a gap between the first watch and the second watch. I actually thought that the key fob was instrumental in winning the battle. Like at one point, he woke them up, but I thought that he had actually. I thought that was sort of the ringer, if you will, that to guarantee that they were going to win the battle. But he doesn't. He wakes them up, and it is a legitimate battle, and he joins the Wakandans as a Wakandan in the fight against these Liberator drones. And then we get the most emotionally charged moment of the entire episode. We have this big, Killmonger mounts up one of the rhinos, does the big charge, and then Okoye and the Dora Milaje are going at it, and the monkey tribe are going at it. And he sees a spot where Ramonda is going to get hit. And so he intervenes in that. And then she slams a spear between two of these drones. And I'm getting emotional now thinking about it. She grabs her spear and she tears it out of the two drones, and she just screams for T'Challa, and she's crying just like I am now. Jesus. Oh, so emotionally charged.
Really good scene.
Yeah. So I mean, the loss of a child, and dealing with that is really it really comes through in this. Yeah. So at that point, with the battle over and the knowledge that they have won, it really cements Killmonger's loyalty, at least in their eyes, to the Wakandans, and for that, he's made the new Black Panther. So this is an interesting part here, because there's a huge piece here that I haven't quite figured it out why. When a Wakandan is given the herb, they go to the ancestral plane. Right. So if you think
a lot like a hallucinogen, they die temporarily.
Yeah. So in Black Panther, when Eric takes the herb and he walks out onto the ancestral plane, he's met by his own father. That doesn't happen in this episode. Mm-hmm. And this is why this is the part that I don't understand, is he's actually met by T'Challa. And T'Challa tells him that he warns him that unearned power can be a volatile force, and that eventually it will get the best of him. And he punctuates it by saying, on his plane or theirs.
Right. Like suggesting there'll be some comeuppance when you get here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think maybe that on the ancestral plane, you get the message that you need. You're confronted with whatever aspect of your past you need to have a lesson taught to you about.
I couldn't quite figure it out if it was unique.
T'Challa is defiant with all the ancestors. He sees grandfathers and other fathers he's never seen before.
I assumed that they were all ancestors of his.
Right. No, absolutely. But, that he might have remembered, but certainly a couple of generations anyway that he might not have been physically connected to. But that he's defiant because he wants to change the way things have been done in Wakanda for centuries.
Yeah,
and that's sort of like the moment he needs. But perhaps, and in that other iteration of Killmonger, perhaps the being brought to ground a little, which actually rounds his character out, is that interaction with his father. And perhaps in this, it's the lesson that he should really be taking away is that don't do this because we're waiting for you regardless.
One of the other interpretations I had over the ancestral plane is because it is so specific to the Black Panther, are these ancestors of the individual taking the herb, or all these people have all been the Black Panther?
I would assume it's ancestors of people taking the herb, and because he is technically family, that's the same tree.
Yeah.
That's a very good interpretation.
As opposed to being like blood relatives, like maybe it doesn't always pass father to son. Maybe it's passed, father to brother or father to cousin. Right. That they've all these ancestors on the ancestral plane have been the Black Panther at some point.
Yeah.
And that's why I kind of go, why didn't Killmonger why did he see his father in the movie versus T'Challa in the episode?
Well, that's very true. Because his father was never Black Panther.
This is it, right?
Or an aspect of it.
So
it reminds me of something that you say that they're all in a tree, because certainly there's panthers in the
family
tree.
Yeah. And so there's the other thing. If they were all Black Panthers, you see the panther in the tree, the panther comes down and it becomes a man.
but perhaps the tree is has a larger symbology. Because I have extensive notes on this, but I didn't get into it in my episode. But in the library of Cagliostro, there's a tree with pink cherry blossoms on it, and I was thinking that might have been indicative of Yggdrasil.
Oh,
The
yeah,
world,
yeah.
the universe tree.
Perhaps all the tree of the world, and perhaps all the trees that we see on these other dimensions or on astral planes or in specific special places are all aspects of this Yggdrasil or world tree.
Right.
And I mean, you having said that now makes me think that maybe it's on multiple tiers.
I guess so. Yeah. I just found it was this aspect of the episode left the most room for interpretation.
Certainly, yeah.
Boiled down, basically, T'Challa's telling him, look, you're going to be found out.
Yeah, there's going to be a reckoning, whether it's out there or in here.
Yeah.
All right, back in the United States, we have a scene with Ross, and I think it's Happy and Pepper walking down a hallway, and he's like ordering one of the United States fleets into a blocking position just off the coast of Wakanda. And Pepper's like, are you sure this is a good idea? You know, this is a place where most people couldn't even find on a map. And he's like, yeah, well, by tomorrow they won't have to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so we're about to make the next major, military action against Wakanda. And it almost sounds like it's going to be, I don't want to say nuclear, but it's suggestive that it's going to be something.
They're going to be swinging the bigger stick.
This is what I mean. Like, are you talking about we're going to wipe them off the face of the map here? Because that's my interpretation of it anyway.
Launch Captain Marvel.
Yeah, really. So leaving that situation, Pepper dips into Tony's old office for a moment of respite, and she closes the door, leans back on the door. And the chair spins around, and look, it's Shuri sitting behind the desk. And Shuri, tells Pepper, Tony Stark was a genius, but he wasn't the only genius.
Mm-hmm.
And basically reveals that she's deduced that it was Killmonger who not only killed Tony Stark, but is also responsible for the death of her brother. There's a nice little hole there too. It's like I would have liked to have seen that discovery of that. Even though we didn't, I would have preferred to see it that way. At least it would have made it just a little bit more connective tissue to this scene. But that being said, the two women acknowledge that both sides of the conflict have unwittingly succumbed to a common enemy, even though neither side is willing to see it. And as the episode closes, it's young Shuri who proposes that she and Pepper open their eyes together.
Yes.
And I know the naysayers are going to say that it's, social justice, woke stuff. And you know what? You're damn right it is. And
awesome.
why shouldn't it be?
Goddamn right.
She is one of the smartest people on the planet.
Absolutely.
So.
I mean, look at the end of Black Panther where she was left to be the head of the Wakandan Cultural Center.
Yeah.
It totally makes sense that she's the one to, let's, pull the veil back and show the world what's really happening.
So you flash forward a year from this scene, and you get Shuri as Black Panther.
Yeah.
And you get Pepper in her Iron Man or Iron Woman armor. And that's fantastic. Wouldn't that be just the characters? Like, watching the episode earlier, you're like, oh, since Tony's dead, the hero of the episode is always just low key Pepper.
Yeah.
Like in the background, she's still trying to do the right thing. She's the noble person.
She's the moral compass. Yeah.
And so and a lot of chatter online too is that we're going to see maybe even in another season of What If, but that we're going to see certain aspects of all these realities coalesce into one reality and get like a what if.
Can we talk about that for a second? And I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but I just want to say I actually made that connection. So this episode, the Killmonger episode, before we started recording, I told Andy this. The Thor episode, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it, but the ending of the Thor episode with the showing up of that character.
Oh yeah.
Connects to this episode. And I'll tell you, here's how it connects.
Uh-huh.
That initial Liberator drone that Killmonger whacked at Tony's house.
Right.
How do we know that that's not the evolution of Jarvis?
100%.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
100%. So here's where I firmly believe the MCU is heading. I'm not. It's not a stretch, and there's a lot of evidence and chatter on the
internet. Yeah, of course.
But we're heading towards the 2015 Secret Wars storyline.
Yeah.
And in this 2004 or 2005 Secret Wars storyline, the universe, the multiverse is ending. And it's got nothing to do with Kang or the Universal War.
Right.
What's happening is that universes are starting to collide.
Yeah.
And that in the event that happens in 616, and it also happens simultaneously in 1610, which is the Ultimate Universe. When two Earths, which I talked about in my breakdown of my episode, when the Earth is such this singularly important nexus point across all realities, and specifically a nexus point within the universe itself. Yeah. That Galactus might attack it, or that the Watcher would step out of his Watcher role to actually intervene. That, I lost myself there. I totally lost myself.
We're headed towards the 2015 Secret War.
Right. So, in that, the Reed Richards from the Ultimate Universe, 1610, is as Earths start to collide. So what's happening is when two Earths collide, either one Earth has to be destroyed or the other one, or the entire universe that Earth is contained in gets destroyed. So these multiversal Earths are annihilating one another, and all the Reed Richards sort of figure it out at the same time. And the Reed Richards of 1610 is a different Reed Richards from all the other ones. And there's actually a group of villains called the Cabal, and they're made up of like Thanos and it's a cabal of and Professor Xavier and it's crazy. But Reed Richards is one of them. Doom is one of them. And Reed Richards decides we have to destroy other Earths. That's the most logical thing. 7 billion people versus 150 trillion people or beings is not even like ballpark. But of course, our Reed Richards 616 is like, no, we have to. There must be a way to, And so in Secret Wars, these two universes collide, and the respective Reed Richardses find a way to, with Doom's help, sort of create a new singular universe. Yeah, and that's what Secret War is that the Doom, who's now God, Emperor Doom, of Battle World, has created an Earth with its own sort of timeline in its own universe, and seeded that Earth with all the heroes and villains that he could pluck out of all the different multiverses. Yeah, and they fight it out.
Patchwork.
Yeah.
Right. And in the end, Reed Richards defeats Doom and takes the remaining heroes, and it's the ones that there's only very few 616 heroes that are actually Spider-Man's one, Doc Strange is one, but none of the mutants are from 616. Most of the mutants are from but then he creates the new Marvel continuity that we know now in the comics that moves forward from that Secret War. And I think that's what you're seeing here is the breaking of the universe into multiverses, different iterations of the characters. And that the next sort of 10 movies will show you different versions of different characters.
And then put it all back together.
What if is like the sort of like the entree, or not the entree, but
the hors d'oeuvre.
The hors d'oeuvre. Yeah. This is what you're getting, and that we're going to see that storyline play out, where Doom, stealing the power from the Beyonder, picks Wolverine from this universe, and Reed Richards from that universe, and Thor from this universe, and builds. I 100% think that's exactly where we're heading for the big. Infinity War, the end game of now, Phase 5 or 6.
I was going to say we're not looking at this as a Phase 4 end state, are we?
No, God,
no. I'm talking about 5 and 6 maybe. Like we just went through what was it, a 15-year plan, right?
Yeah, a 22 film,
25
film. Yeah, 25.
Yeah, so I mean, right? So I'm not talking about a short-term plan. And in that you're going to get your Kangs and your Galactuses and the introduction of like what a perfect way to not disrupt everything that's going on and go, oh well, the mutants just didn't feel like getting involved in Infinity War.
Oh yeah.
What a better way to do it than that part of that reality was pulled into this one. Mm-hmm. The Fantastic Four were pulled out of their reality and put into this one. The X-Men were pulled out, and now they're all in one reality together.
And that's a very creative way to do that.
7 moving
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I do it.
I mean, as soon as you say multiverse, it just makes all of those things possible. For a second there, I'm thinking, God, this sounds an awful lot like, Crisis.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? For those of you who are steeped in DC lore, I mean, you know what I'm talking about.
Right. And that, I mean, everybody that knows that Crisis was bred out of a way of fixing.
Yeah. The crazy, stupid
DC was mental in the early days.
Yeah,
just mental. Yeah. You had Jimmy Olsen and Super Monkeys, and you had there was just so much crazy stuff that they had to start just whittling down characters to pick one.
Yeah.
I was the New 25 or something like that was their way of dealing with that.
Right.
Oh, the New 52.
New 52.
Or the New 52. Yeah.
Hey, I got to tell you, I'm going to defend the New 52 because I hadn't bought comic books for a long time. I had cherry picked. I'd go out and buy, a graphic novel here or there, like a standalone Superman story or something. When I was looking for a way to get back into comic books around 2007, 2008, the New 52 had just come out. And so I bought in and I read the entire run of the New 52 Justice League, and I very much liked it. It was very good. It started off with Jeff Johns.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Jeff Johns.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's talented. Yeah. I'm not the hugest, you guys know that. I'm not the hugest, especially the old DC stuff. I should probably give newer stuff a shot. I just always felt like, especially Superman in the 70s, was like, I would read complex stuff like I know, and it's like a soap opera, but the tragedy of Scott Summers when he's dating a clone of Jean Grey who turns out to be a demon from Limbo, and it was in league with Smithson, and that kind of, we're dealing with, and then Superman is allergic to a rock.
Yeah.
So I never could gravitate towards that stuff. Batman was a little different, right? Batman was a little different, but as a kid, I never Aquaman. Okay, he could breathe underwater, but look at Namor. He could fly when he's in his. Yeah. So I just and maybe I should go back and give some of that stuff, because
a lot of people.
There is. My individual favorite comic of all time is actually a DC comic. Yeah. And that's the Batman's Dark Knight Returns. That's my favorite comic of all time. But I can't say Batman's my favorite character or that
a lot of people did criticize the visual style of the New 52. It's like, they, in the 90s when Marvel, everybody had to have pouches. So now in the New 52, everybody had to have armor. It looked like armor panels, right? But honestly,
is that any more ridiculous than just nude people with
with body paint,
different
just
and their
body painted?
Removed,
yeah,
right?
yeah, they're just body painted.
Yeah. I have been doubling down on these things lately, and it's like this was $30, and there's the first 18 issues of the Fantastic Four. So I highly, if you guys miss comics, if you love comics, the way that comics are available, I just bought 18 classic comics that would have cost me $150,000 to read physically for $30.
The reprints are always,
fantastic way to consume stuff. Now that I've got my friggin' glasses and I can actually read comics offline, I can't encourage people enough to I'm not trying to, I don't work for Marvel or anything, but what a great way to consume classic stuff. And especially with what's going on now, there are so many dips into the classic 616 that I just can't stop reading all that old stuff. And it's just making this stuff have so much more relevance and stuff.
And I mean, we don't necessarily talk about it very much on our show, but there are lots of other people out there on the internet who are putting together, key issue lists of stuff that you want to read that will help you get more connected to what's going on in the MCU. So those are... Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I found it really cool. It's called Marvel Database, and it lists every single issue of comics released. So if you're like, I don't know, a weirdo, I was like, I want to read everything that was released the year I was born.
Oh yeah.
And it actually go 1971 in Marvel Database, and it tells you every single comic in monthly order that was released. And then I was like, well, you could actually get the entire chronological reading list
Yeah.
of the entire Marvel universe.
Oh,
I was like,
that hurts my
think
brain.
I could do that before I die?
That hurts my brain.
I'm going to try.
And if you don't want to break the bank, our Canadian audience, make your way to Dollarama because
Oh
they
my
have
gosh,
been getting
yes.
graphic novels left, right, and center.
Yeah. Dollarama's has been a
$3 and
treasure
$4,
trove. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
You cannot go wrong.
I picked up
I've definitely got
a bunch of Star Trek out of that. Yeah.
Star Trek, Star Wars, DC, Marvel.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was the last Dollarama find.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. And thick, man. It's no joke for $4.
No. All right, guys. Well, that's been our part 2 of So What? It's our Fandom Power look at Marvel's What If, currently airing on Disney Plus. So we're going to be back in a couple of weeks once we've got episodes 7, 8, and 9 have dropped. And then we will be back with another installment of So What? Can't speculate on where we're going next, but I know that when we wrap up here, we're going to have a little offline chat about Star Wars Visions. So you may see something on that in the next couple of weeks. But that's it for me, guys. Any more?
Mm-mm. Who watches
like
the
and subscribe.
Watchers? We do.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
All right, guys. That's it for me from Fandom Power. I'm Wes.
I'm Andy.
I'm Hank.
And we'll catch you next time, guys.
Woo.
Bye for now.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to Fandom Power. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Stay tuned for our next episode where we'll be talking about another one of your favorite fandoms. Fandom Power is a Sawcast production.